you here, and we are really thrilled. आज तक आपको बहुत distance से different platform पे सुना है, and today we are really excited to have you here, and I'm sure our fellows are also very excited. And this also happens to be our 4th anniversary on the 4th of April, so we are combining two celebrations here. So thrilled to have you here today. Thank you for joining. To do that.
So we'll wait about 5 minutes for our fellows to join because some of our fellows are joining from remote places and they are also using one computer to join as a group. We'll just give them a little bit of more time to set up and then we can begin. In the meantime, Dr. Kang, do you want to check if you can share your slides? Srijit, would you give both the speakers permission to share?
Yes, that's done. It's done.
Okay. Okay.
It's showing me a lot of options on how to share, so I'll just try it out and let's see how it goes.
Okay.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen perfect.
Okay. And is it showing up in presentation mode?
Right now, it's like a regular PowerPoint. You have to probably go to slide show to show up in.
I'm not
right
sure.
down. Right, if you go down here.
Okay.
Yes, perfect.
All right. So I'll stop sharing then.
Okay. Kavita, would you like to check if your slide?
Yeah, just give me a minute. I'll just try to share.
Sure.
Let me know if you're able to see.
Yes, we can see.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Oh, you have dogs.
Yeah, I do have.
I have two dogs too. That's why I'm super excited. All right. Give me one more minute. Vijay, for some reason, I can't see you properly. Your face is a little blurry.
Let me just sort it 1 second.
Important that while we are sharing the fourth, celebrating the 4th anniversary, the co-founders' faces need to be visible. So, okay, while we wait for Vijay to come back, I think it's 6:35, so we can begin. Before I introduce our eminent speakers for today, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. This is a special occasion, not just closing keynotes of the Kalpana Incubator 2. This also will be celebrating our 4th anniversary soon on 4th April, but we will just do it few days early anyway, right? So before I introduce the speakers, I would like to welcome or open the stage for Darshana to say a few words about the organization and how far we have come along since we started our journey. Rachana, please go ahead.
Thank you, Anu. Without your permission, so I'm sorry, I'm going to show a few slides, which I didn't seek your prior permission. Sorry for that.
Okay.
But I'm just so excited to share our journey today with all of you. And I feel that it's a right platform for our fellows to know us as well and to really understand who we are and how we began. I'll be super quick in a few minutes, but it's been a very, very humbling journey. Vigyanshala began as a group of students who were trying to do something unique in the STEM engagement space. It started as a group of PhD students and researchers based across the globe who started doing science engagement because we realized that in our universities, we were so open to the public. Universities were spaces where science was celebrated and it was accessible to people. And we felt that that was missing when we were growing up in India. So we started doing these outreach activities. And in 3 years' time, along with our full-time PhDs, we conducted over 50 workshops across different parts of India. As you can see from this map, like we had a huge spread and we engaged close to 8,000 students. And these were some of the generous funding partners that believed in some of the students like us and really supported us. And that got us thinking, like, you know, there is a need for it. And if we can create an active ecosystem where not just workshops happen and students feel excited, but we are really able to create a dent. So that's when Vijay and I jumped in full time into founding Vigyanshala as a charitable trust. April 2019, 4th of April to be precise, we founded Vigyanshala and then began our journey of, I'm a bit emotional, but yeah, that began our journey of on-ground studies. We went to some 8-9 states, really interacted with institutions like IITs and ICERs and Institute of Mathematical Sciences, Chennai, places where science engagement was happening and really engaging people, as well as we went to organizations like Agastya Foundation for some science program, Tata Foundation in Jharkhand and Odisha. They were doing these engagements, deeper engagements with schools and colleges, and that really gave us an idea of whether we are required in here and how are we going to pivot. And one of the proudest thing that Vijay and I did was visiting these 130 plus remote schools in Uttarakhand. Some of the schools required like few kilometers of trek in dense forest, and 20 plus colleges we went to engage 1,200 plus students in personal interviews, collected data on their aspirations, and we understood that there is in fact an acute lack of resources, but there are also old and underutilized infrastructure that is lying there, and that will continue to happen if we don't invest in capacity building. And of course, the challenges that young girls were facing in imagining their space in science. So this sort of gave us our purpose, and we designed this very interesting program called the Rural STEM Champions program, which is still being piloted at a small scale in Uttarakhand, where we are imagining and envisioning that every remote college in India can come on the research map, led by students who are really building innovative projects. So we have we set up these innovation spaces in colleges, give scholarship to some of the students whom we call rural STEM champions, and through them we engage local school students into science activities. So now the upper photo is our STEM champions who are doing their innovative research projects in this space, but are also going and talking in their community about science. So that is really changing the way people look at science. And I just wanted to mention this small breath simulator that one of the research groups there built. They, with just locally available material, they built a breath simulator that could demonstrate the difference between a sneeze, cough, and a breath. And they dig up all the data on how the pressure should look like, and then they said, okay, if you put a mask in front, you really stop the spread of aerosols that are coming. And you wouldn't believe the projects that we designed. We thought they will take some time, but these young people there, they really did it in a week to 10 days time, said, oh, your methodology doesn't work. Here is our improvised version. And that really filled us with the belief that there is so much innovation potential in rural India, and we should bridge the knowledge gap that exists by creating new pipelines for knowledge and inspiration that these young people in remote parts of India are building and innovating. And these are some of Mayank, who is an aspiring data scientist from Uttarakhand. Diksha is going to be an ecologist. And this brought another thing to our notice, was like girls, when they were in mixed groups, their voices were not as loud. But the moment you created exclusive tribes for them, they really outgrew. And that's how program Kalpana was born. And we realized that, parents, they were trusting the local media a lot more. So these are the two things that we are now building a lot of momentum on. And I'm really proud to say the program that began as an offshoot of the original idea is now set to impact 10,000 girls in science and technology across India by December 2023. And we are entering 2 large partnerships with Telangana and Uttarakhand to really widen the reach of this program to every aspiring girl there. And I am really grateful to each one of you for being here and for being part of this mission. With that, Anushila, I will bring this to a close, but I am, as a founder of the organization, I am extremely, extremely grateful to the fellows who are here today, because of whom we do what we do, and to the women leaders in STEM, Professor Kang and Kavita. We are very, very grateful to be here with you, to be celebrating this day, and to bring your journey in STEM to these young girls who are looking up to you as role models, as women in STEM, who they shall aspire to be in future. So thank you very much. And we look forward to having a continued association in this journey with you. And Vijay, if you want to add anything, please feel free.
Yeah, this is all great. What you said about the journey is fantastic. And one thing I would like to add is, in our journey, what we realized is there are so many people with great goodwill who are just wanting to provide and wanting to accelerate the growth of the underprivileged in so many different ways, volunteering their time, their resources. And yeah, so we are trying all that's in our capacity to get all of us together and actually create impact on the ground and scale. So thank you for all, and this wouldn't have been possible without the mentors, absolutely, or mentors, the speakers, and also a lot of other students. So yeah, so thank you again, Kavita ji and Gagandeep ji, for being with us, because yeah, your time really matters. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Darshana. Thank you, Vijay. Let me spotlight the people. All right. All right. So thank you, Darshana and Vijay, for introducing the program and showing us how Vigyantala grew to what we are today. It's also very enriching to be part of your journey and to work alongside two great, teammates with Vigyantala and other team members. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the closing keynote session of Kalpana Incubator 2. We have two phenomenal women with us today. Professor Kang, who is a physician scientist working on vaccines and public health, particularly focused on children and enteric infectious diseases in India. She has worked with colleagues at the Christian Medical College and other institutions in India to build national rotavirus and typhoid surveillance networks to estimate disease burden and inform policy. Because she was based at CMC for most of her career, she has also established strong training programs for students as well as young faculty in clinical translational medicine, so that you have a cadre of clinical researchers studying relevant problems in India. She is an elected fellow of the Indian Science Academy and is the first Indian woman to be elected to fellowship of the American Academy of Microbiology and to the Royal Society, and the only physician scientist to receive the Infosys Award in Life Sciences. So thank you, Professor Kang, to to join us today, and we look forward to hear about your journey. Thank you so much for being here. We also have Kavita Kaushik with us. Kavita Kaushik is the head of quality and Six Sigma for Cummins India since September 2021. She has an extensive experience of over 28 years in the area that she's working in. She has been a part of Cummins for more than 15 years, but before that, she has also worked with organizations like Alpha Level, Tata Johnson Controls across operations, quality, and many customer-facing roles. She began her career as one of the first women engineers working on the shop floor, and then advanced to handling more challenging and strategic roles, including the leadership of overall quality strategy and execution for Cummins India at present. She is a certified visionary leader for manufacturing by Confederation of Indian Industry and Japan International Cooperation Agency. As a WIL executive member of the WIL Forum of India, Kavita has been conferred the Future Women Award for her dedication towards mentoring diverse and young talent across country. She has been mentoring many professionals and helped them build their leadership capacities. So she is committed to helping people, especially women, progress in their careers by sharing her learnings and experience. Thank you for Kavita again for joining us today, and we are look forward to hearing from both of you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
I would now request Dr. Kang to share her slides, and she can present.
Sure. Thank you very much for the introduction. Anushita, can you confirm that you can see my slides?
Yes, we can see your slides. Perfect.
Okay. Thank you very much for the invitation to speak. Anytime anybody says I have the opportunity to speak with young people, I tend to grab it. So over the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to give you a really brief overview of what I do and how I got to where I am now. So we were given a set of templates of slides, and I had to go dig in my photograph albums to try and find pictures. So I'm a Punjabi girl who's never lived in Punjab. And I moved around a lot with my family because my father was in the railways and my mother was a teacher. And he would get posted to new places every couple of years. So that meant that I had to change a lot of schools. And basically at that time, the curriculum used to be not as structured as it is nowadays. So I spent a lot of time on my own, because each time you go to a new place, everybody already has friends and a group that they work with. So for me, it used to take a little time to make a group of friends. And what tended to happen was that if you move from one place to the next place, you keep your good friends from the previous place, and then you move on to another one, and then having friends retained from 3 or 4 places ago becomes harder and harder. And this, of course, was because this was in the days that you kept in touch with your friends with inland letters and postcards. In today's day of smartphones and WhatsApp, I don't think you lose touch with all the people that you come in contact with so easily. But it was a good, nuclear family. Thanks to my parents, they sort of pushed me to learn every sport, to have lots of extracurricular activities. So whether it was acting in the school play or dancing or trying to sing, and I'm very bad at all of those. I cannot do any of these. I got a little bit good at badminton, but everything else, theater, dance, music, I'm terrible. Doesn't stop me trying though. So because I studied mostly in small town schools, I didn't have really great teachers. So learning on my own and learning with the help of my parents was something that became absolutely essential. So when I finished my 10th, in the 11th, we moved to Calcutta. And finally, I wound up in a school that actually had some good teachers. So my chemistry teacher, my biology teacher, my English teacher were absolutely incredible. They were really, really good. And we had an absolutely incredible maths teacher whom I'm still in touch with today. So, she taught me in 11th and 12th. Now she calls me up for health related advice for her family. So it's nice to be able to do something for someone who did so much for me. So after I finished school, I got into CMC Vellore for my MBBS. And CMC is a very unusual medical college. It's a private college, but it is a not-for-profit organization. And the goal of the college is really to train doctors to go out and work in rural areas. So in smaller towns, in rural areas. So we try to specifically select students who come from these areas. And they don't have to be, the academic best of the best. They have to be good. But what we used to look at is their motivation to go back to the places that they came from and work there. It is the Christian Medical College, so they have a quota for selection of Christians. I was not a Christian, but I got in anyway, and it was foundational for me because this was the first place where I was new and everybody else was new. I was very used to situations where I was the new person coming in and everybody else had been established. So in a way, all of us in the class, 60 of us students, spent 5 years together and grew together into adults. And this was an absolutely incredible learning experience because CMC is an institution that teaches you not only that you need to be ethical, that you need to have high standards, but also that the whole institution is established really to bring medical care originally to women and now to everybody. So it was established as a medical school for women in 1918, and it wasn't until 1947 that it started to admit men. So in my class, for example, half of the class is women and half of the class was men. And women had a very strong role to play in every activity that we undertook, as well as during our learning process. I stayed in CMC for my MD and for my PhD. Between my MBBS and my MD, I went to Delhi to work in AIMS Delhi, and that was a bit of a challenge because I could see that there was a very hierarchical culture that was present, and there was a sort of bias in who you knew and how well networked you were in determining how you could grow in a particular area. So I was very happy after 1 year in working in AIMS to come back to CMC for my MD. I finished my MD and then straight away embarked on my PhD. By this time, I had been given a job on the faculty. And one of the things that CMC does is that it allows you to take study leave if you want to learn anything new. So I went to the UK for my MRC path and then to the US for a postdoc. This was over a period of 2 years. And then I came back to India in 2000 and then proceeded to build out my own group. Being a student is absolutely incredible. And if you have students who enjoy having fun, I think sometimes you learn much more through those kinds of interactions than you do in classes. But then when you start to work, then it is professional activities that teach you what is important at work. And essentially, integrity and hard work are really the things that matter. So for me, when I came back to India, I had quite an incredible experience because I got a very big grant to start the research that I wanted to do. And I had to handle it by myself because there weren't many people that were doing the kind of research that I was doing. So it involved not working in the hospital, and my training had all been in hospital. It required working in the community, building the team that would work in the community. And for that, I think, one thing that's really important to understand is even if you feel lost, there are lots of support systems that you can call on. So for me, the pictures that you see here, the first pictures are of my best friends whom I could call up at any time and tell them what I was struggling with. And they would always show up, be helpful. They're not in the area that I work in, but just having somebody to talk to was incredible. In the middle is a picture of my husband's great aunt. She was the nursing superintendent at CMC Vellore. She came to Vellore in 1930 to become a nurse when girls from what were called high-class families did not choose nursing as a career. That was thought of as something that only people from the lower classes did because it involved a lot of personal care of patients. But she chose to do that. And then the stories that she told of her life and her career, of flying across the Atlantic during the Second World War, of training at McGill University in the 1950s, of becoming the first Indian nursing superintendent of the hospital, showed me that even long before me, there were women who were really breaking down barriers and building their careers. And then the third picture is of my first PhD student, Sashireka Ramni, who joined me at a time when I had nothing. There was me and one technician, and we essentially grew together. She taught me how I needed to mentor. And it's incredible that she now has her own PhD students and has built an incredibly strong research career of her own. So all of us together learned how to work and to get things done. And to summarize about 30 years of work, what have I really done? I failed a lot. A lot of things that you do, especially when you're trying to be ambitious, you tend to not be able to succeed. But along the way, a couple of the things that we've done is we managed to contribute to the development and the use of oral rotavirus vaccines, first in India in 2016, and then now in other parts of the world as well. And if I can explain to you what this means, essentially, rotavirus vaccines became available to the world at $200 a dose in 2006. In 2016, when we introduced vaccines in India, they cost $1 a dose. So it was an incredible, we needed to be able to do this because in India, we have about 27 million children that are born every year. And if we were to pay $200 to immunize every child with one vaccine for one disease, then it would essentially wipe out our health budget. So we needed to be innovative, and we were able to do that. And now every Indian child gets a rotavirus vaccine that is made in India. We've also more recently driven the decision-making for typhoid vaccines, where the government has committed to introducing typhoid vaccines for the whole country. It hasn't started yet, but we hope it will start soon. Along the way, we've also done a lot of work on the science of enteric infections, and that's what leads to being recognized by your peer community. But to me, the most important thing is that I hope that I have left a legacy of young and mid-career people who will expand Indian medical science. I don't want to be the only physician scientist to get the Infosys Life Sciences Award. I want there to be a lot more of us who will do this. So then moving on, why do I do what I do? Well, in addition to studying vaccines, one of the things that we realized very on is your environment determines how you grow and how healthy you are. It affects not only your physical growth, but also your mental growth. And there are a lot of processes that we have looked at that explain why that happens. So what we do is we work on children's illnesses because children are the future, and everything we can do to help them should be done. And my group is now recognized as one of the best groups in the world. And we built this group sitting in Vellore. We can change things for Indian children, but from India, we can also change the world if we ask the big questions and are willing to work really hard to address them. I was asked for my CV of challenges. It's a very, very long list. So I'll just bring up a few. One of them is that my husband is a Christian. I am not. And that was a challenge in the 1980s, early 90s to get married. I had 2 children during my PhD. So holding down a full-time job, being a faculty member and doing a PhD on top of that was quite a difficult time, but you can do it with the right support systems. We also had a lot of illnesses in the family that meant that I had to look after a lot of people. My husband was ill. My father-in-law was ill. My grandmother-in-law, grandfather-in-law were ill. They were all with us for long periods of time. But one of the advantages of working in a hospital is that you can look after your family during difficult times. And then, of course, as I grew in my career, you encounter all kinds of biases. CMC, even though it exists to serve the country, is a private organization, and most of science in India is actually done in government organizations. So being recognized for your science can be hard. And of course, gender plays, the higher you get in science, you will find gender plays more and more of a role because there are fewer women there. So what I'm hoping to do is to change things as, I hope I've already changed some things, but I'll continue to do that. And then in my work, I've had some things where what I found was not what the world said it should be. So to stand up and say what I'm finding has to be explained was quite difficult. It took almost 8 years before the world sort of agreed, the scientific world agreed that our findings were indeed accurate. But a lot of doubt was cast on what we were presenting at the time. So how to build a thriving career? I think being persistent and passionate is important. More important than that is having good friends who build you up and support you, just as you should be there to support them when they need it, especially for women. I cannot emphasize how important this really is. The other things are that language, professionalism, and competencies do matter. If you show that you are paying attention to detail, that you care about the quality of your work, that you are willing to improve, then you will progress. So I told you about Sashi, my first PhD student. Actually, when she came for the interview, I had already selected someone else, but she was just so enthusiastic, so willing to get engaged that somehow I found the money to employ her, and it's been one of the best decisions I made in my life. So projecting your enthusiasm and your passion do matter. And then finding, for women especially, if you can deliberately try to find a good mentor who is well networked, that will help you get a step up in your career. So advice, I think, choose the kind of work that really matters to you, because then it doesn't feel like work at all. It becomes your passion. And then you need to keep learning, because expanding your ability to address different kinds of problems is essential to professional growth. And for women, again, especially, I think recognizing the barriers that you have, taking a step back, thinking about what might help you to overcome them is a really good strategy to have. I told you that I started with one technician and one PhD student. You can see that our group has grown quite a lot. This is only the laboratory group. There are now 200 of us that work on problems of Indian children. So with that, I'd just like to say thank you and hand back to Anushila, sorry.
Thank you, Professor Kang. It was I'm a little bit overwhelmed from like hearing your story and how you started, and also good to know the Calcutta reference, because I'm also from Calcutta. Thank you so much. It's a great journey, and how you have started and overcome different challenges. And thank you for stressing the point that even though you are here today and we always hear success stories, everyone has failed and overcome the challenges to move to the stage where they are. So thank you. Kavita, would you like to go ahead, please? Professor Kang will come back to the fellows and take questions after Kavita's presentation.
Sure, of course.
You're on mute. Yeah, sorry. You able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so good evening, everyone. First of all, I'm really very honored, to be part of the Kalpana series, and really honored to get associated with you, Dr. Gagandeep. Such an amazing journey you have had, and it's so noteworthy and so absolutely motivating. So with that, thanks, Darshana, to invite me to be a part of the Kalpana series today. And I have not used the template. I don't believe in templates. I made my own template. Okay, so that's how. So yeah. So I'll just start with this. This is my family here, which you see at the top, and I'm the eldest in the family. So we are three sisters and one brother. And you see the photograph of my mother there. I lost my father long time back now. Very young he was, just 53, 54 years old when I lost him. And I think today whatever I am in my life is because of my father and my husband. And a big mention I want to make, that whatever I am today is because of them. And as I was, I started when I was very young, in my school days itself. Anything what my father said always was a great guidance for me. My father was in the Air Force, and then kind of he took a voluntary retirement after the 71 war when he had got a bullet in his hand. So he was in the technical field in the Air Force. But he always wanted that I should join medical field. He had that as one of his a great vision for me that I should be a doctor. And as I grew up in my school days, I was very good in sports. I also was good in my studies. I never stood first, but I was there in the first 10 all the time. But I was very, very good in my sports. I played almost every sport, and that really helped me to keep and imbibe in me that I should always remain healthy throughout my life. And that's how, as I grew up during my school days, being doing a lot in the sports, and also managed to do good in my studies. And as soon as I came into my 11th standard, my dad had that this for me, that you should be he dreamt of me that I should become a doctor. I was not interested in medicine. I was always interested more in machines. Okay, so I had to had a good amount of discussion with him as I moved into my 11th standard, that I would want to perceive technical education as compared to taking up biology in my 11th standard. And I think again, as a rebel I dropped biology in 11th standard, so that again my father would not be behind me to take up medicine. And that's how did my engineering in electrical, and graduated out with electrical with specialization in power electronics from Government College of Engineering, Pune. And that's how I got my first job in Alpha Level. And this was a time when in Alpha Level on the shop floor, basically, again, I wanted that, a life which was, where there was a lot of what you can say, maybe I never wanted to sit behind computers and work. I wanted to be where the action was, and that's how I wanted to be on the shop floor all the time. And that's how I chose in Alpha Level. When they asked me where would you want to work, I said I would want to work on the shop floor. And after Mrs. Leela Poonawalla, I was one of the first women engineers to work on the shop floor. And I chose the shop floor where it was called as a factory 2, where they used to make big vessels, for boilers, pressure vessels, for huge breweries, dairy. And that was the time, I chose to be there. But obviously I struggled, and I failed many times there, because it was very demanding physical work. It was with people who were maybe more than 20-25 years of experience, who had on the shop floor, and me being with them and just being the learning along with them, it was not very easy. And also there was an issue with my language, because I'm a North Indian, and in Alpha Level, most of the people who were there were people with Marathi speaking background, and it was very difficult. And they used to tell me that you please go, and if you really want to, speak with us, speak it with us in Marathi. And I think that's where I started with a will that I want to be successful, and that's how I started learning Marathi. And I think today people are not able to understand whether I'm a North Indian or a Maharashtrian. So I can speak Marathi so well. And I started reading a lot of books and a lot of this to learn Marathi at that time. And again, the part of the this was, since there were no women on the shop floor, and I was a college graduate, and I was taken on the shop floor to be a manager to people who were around 25 years in their career. And I it was difficult for me, because they used to tell me, madam, why you want to come on the shop floor? You sit in the office, and we will get all the reports and everything to you. And I used to feel very surprised, and sometimes I used to also feel very sad, hey, this is not something which I want to do. And then what I did was I sat with them and I said, I want to learn with you and I want to be one of you. And that's how, if I don't learn, how can I manage you all? So I think that really helped me to break the ice with them. And I never looked back from that day in terms of always being it's in my DNA that if I have to be successful, I need to know the product well anywhere I work throughout my entire, overall curriculum. So I think that's how I really, worked throughout the years with the belief that I don't consider myself as being different from anyone else, but at the same time, really proud that I'm a woman. And maybe some this which I have put in here. If you look at my personal front, I have 2 sons and a daughter. So 1 son and 1 daughter is a twin out of that. And my elder son today, he is doing his MS in robotics at University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. And my daughter and my son, they are he is doing his engineering in robotics, and my daughter is doing her political science. And absolutely, I would want to say here that I love a lot of pets, and what you see here, I have 2 dogs and a cat. So my dog's name are Jadu, Batuk, and my cat name is Google. Okay, and they are absolutely the people who are such a stress buster to me when I'm back home, from office. So that's how it is. I stay in a joint family. My father-in-law stays with me, and my husband, being married for last 25 years now, and he is also a great motivation behind whatever I'm doing today. On the professional front, 27 years now, and I have done various roles in companies like Alpha Level, Johnson Controls, and now Cummins. Cummins I have been for the last 16 years, and this is a great company which I associate with values, lot of value system, and which helps me to always remain on keeping working with a great company like Cummins. So I have handled various roles like being in the plant, being in the supplier, being in business excellence. Six Sigma is something which I hold very, very dearly for me. And today, when I really, work across setting the quality strategy and developing people in the quality leadership, and also helping people with their leadership journeys. Most important piece I would really want to speak to you all is, as you are a professional, I think the most important piece for you is also how you are able to, help others. And that's where I today, around from whenever I was in the various industries, I work a lot specifically with girls and females and this to help them that whatever issues I had faced as I grew up in my leadership journey, anything which I'm really able to support them, and any way in which I'm able to help them to stay in their career, because I saw that specifically during the COVID time, many of them really took a backseat and wanted to stop working and devote time to their families, and that is absolutely very, very important. But at the same time, if you feel like coming back to work, how I can help them. So I did a lot of that this so that I am able to support them and give them a second career again back in the corporate world. So one project which I'm really very, very proud of is the Udgam project, which you see at the bottom here. This project I am working for almost last 4.5 years, along with my responsibility. And this project is called the Udgam project, where we are working with the women specifically in the rural areas on, first of all, creating awareness around the menstrual hygiene and helping them that they should use sanitary pads, and they should use any safe kind of sanitary where they should remain healthy. So this is a work which we are doing. There's a group of women as well as male who really help in this, and almost last 5 years we have been doing this work. So around one more piece which I'm really proud of to be associated with the Will Forum of India. And here again, I work with a lot of women across the industry who so that I can learn from them, and also at the same time I can help and support them in their journey. So this is another me, and I love colors, and I think that's I feel very proud that being a female, it is I get an advantage to really use all the colors. Okay, so this is where I am. I love adventure. I love rafting, river rafting. Also almost for last 2 years I have been practicing Iyengar yoga every Saturday, Sunday, almost for 2.5 hours. I practice that, and I think that has really helped me to remain fit. And one of the most important piece which I would say is a life without fitness is very difficult to lead, and hence each one of us should try and remain fit throughout the life uh, we are on this earth. So yes, very, very important for me, and that's how I love adventure and I love colors on me. So this is my personality. As a personality, I am an extrovert. I get energy from people, and I'm practical, and I am very decisive, but I work with lot with the data. So I think that's how my personality is. Without data, it becomes a bit difficult for me, to take decisions quickly. And this is what girls, I would really want to say is, sometime back, almost maybe a year back, I started with what is my purpose. I am here today, and I'm led a life with some struggles, a lot of support, and at the same time, I have been able to be a bit successful in my eyes, and I feel very contented with that. So I put in this purpose, and I put in a purpose which said that my life, I want to be remembered as a person who has created a positive experience in the lives of people and led a full life. So whoever I work with, or I get associated with, or this, I feel that I should be able to create a positive experience for that person. And this is what I have put in as my purpose of life. And this is what I want to, lead as I move ahead. And this is my guiding principle. I think I want to, work, and I want to live a life where I follow this principle of live and let live. So I always feel that absolutely everyone has differences, and everyone has a different personality, and you will come across where you feel that, hey, I don't feel that this is where I can get associated with this person, but I think you need to understand the differences, and that's where you need to be with them as live and let live, and they will have their own say, you will have your own say, how both of us can collaborate and really work. So this is one of my mantra: learn and unlearn. I think this is so important for all of us, whether in our school, as we school, college, as we go into working in the corporate world or become entrepreneurs. I think it's very, very important that we keep on learning, and we keep on building on whatever we have learned. So that's why I've kept at this as one of my guiding principles of learn and unlearn. Third point, I feel very, very important: listen and not hear. So many a times what we do is, whenever anyone is talking to us, whether it's our friends, whether our colleague, or whether our parents, we are in a mode that we might be hearing them, but we are not listening to them. That means we are not present both in the mind with and with heart at the time when we are with them. So I think this is one piece which I have kept it as one of my guiding principle, that if I've given time to anyone, or if I'm getting associated with anyone, I should be able to listen to them. So this is another of my principle. Connect emotionally, very, very important. I'm an emotional person. And I want to remain the same throughout my life. And this is again one of my principles. Be there unconditionally. I want to follow a life where I don't want to put on conditions that, hey, if I'm doing this for you, you need to support me in this, or you need to give me this. So that kind of a thing I do not want to practice in my life. So this is also one of my guiding principles which I kept for myself. And I think this is where I am. I am a woman of substance. A strong dad raised me. A loving spouse is supporting me. My kids adore me, and most important, I stood for myself and decided the path at crossroads. So I think very, very important, each one of you today, there may be times where you stand at a crossroad. There may be times when you need to take decisions. Please take decisions and don't think that someone told me to do it, that's why I'm doing it. Take your own decision, whatever way you take, and if you are taking a decision, you need to stand by it. So I think that is what I have kept this always for myself, and I want to stand by it. So I think that's all from my side. Thanks a lot.
Anu, we can't hear you. You are muted.
Sorry, extremely sorry. It was amazing to listen to your journey and find all the connections, especially when you talked about sports and pets, two things I connect with a lot. Being a national gymnast myself, and I have two dogs here that are stress busters for me as well. So I could connect to you there, and being fit and all the references that you gave. And thank you so much. And also listening to your journey, where you started, how you convinced your father to go to the field that you wanted to go, and how you have worked throughout your career. Very inspiring. Without further delay, I would open the floor for questions from our fellows. This is the most exciting part of the session, actually. Girls, the stage is yours, actually. So please unmute and ask questions.
So we will have to start raising hands before, and students,
Yeah.
because otherwise it's great. So anyone who wants to raise hands, go for it, and then we will start.
And if anyone, Gauri, go ahead.
I was confused if my hand is actually getting raised or not. So I had a question for Professor Kang. Am I audible clearly?
Yes, yes.
So I wanted to ask, you mentioned, you just started with a technician and your first PhD student was there when you had just two of you, your technician and you. So what kept you motivated at that point? Now you're leading one of the best groups. So what kept you motivated at that point of your life to keep going?
I think it was the fact that what we were working on was really important. It's very possible to do science that is incremental, that adds only a little bit more to what people already know. And unfortunately, that's what happens with most projects in India. They tend to be short term. So you wind up finding things or doing studies that are small in scale and will not change the world. What we were seeking to do was to figure out what makes a rotavirus vaccine good. Can we rationally design a rotavirus vaccine? And since those vaccines were to be given to every child in the world, the scale of the problem that we were taking on was really large. So, and I also felt like I was very privileged to be able to do this because I had training in the UK and the US, and I was located in a place in India where such questions could really be answered through the kind of research that we were doing. We failed. But along the way, we learned some things that helped us work on actually 4 different rotavirus vaccines in India, 2 of which are now in the market.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Kang. Question?
So I had one question if
Yeah,
people have.
please go ahead.
So this is for, of course, Kavita ji. Kavita, one thing is that did you you come from an engineering field, so we also visited Cummins. Did you find strong gender stereotypes? Do you face that kind of bias, especially in the heavy engineering field that you come from?
So maybe I would say here, Vijay, is when I joined Cummins 16 years back, I've been with Cummins 16 years. 16 years back, yes, there were very, very few, almost like 8 to 10% women, and very, very few on the shop floor, that too. Mostly were in engineering and the other allied fields, but not on the shop floor. So I think the journey which Cummins has taken in last 10 years, because I and moved from maybe being a 7 to 8%. Today we are almost 33% of women working on the shop floor. Okay, when I say actually people making huge engines and huge gensets, which was not there when I joined at that time. And yes, it was a bit difficult at that time, but we had very strong leadership who really focused, okay, that we need to have gender diversity, and so that we need to have diverse views so that we are able to make progress. Okay, and that's how with that overall thinking and viewpoint, I think we have come a long, long way.
Fantastic. Cummins has always been one of the leaders in this field. And how do you deal, because a lot of students are going to get into the workforce now, so if you come across such incidents, if you could give an examples on how do you deal with those kind of biases, maybe help our fellows too.
Yeah, so I think first thing, Vijay, which we have always been is, don't keep quiet. If there is something which you feel is not okay for you, or you are feeling that there is some problem, raise your voice. So I think that's one piece when we enter Cummins. Most important piece is they will always ask you, put your voice, put your opinion. If you are uncomfortable with anything, I think the most important piece is just put your voice to say that there's something which is there which is bothering you. I think most of the time we as women keep quiet. So that's the absolute no, because that in a long way, makes us to take a back seat or makes us to not fulfill what we really want to do in life. So I think that's the important piece is give your voice, talk about it.
Thank you so much. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. I think Manjusha has a question. Manjusha, please go ahead.
Yeah, am I audible to everybody?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay, so my question is for ma'am, for Gagandeep ma'am. So I just wanted to ask, like, I am a first year student, BSc Biotech, but I have not a clear view, like what in future I want to do. I have so much confusion in life. I have not figured out. I want to do PhD, but I am not sure in what field and what is it virology or microbiology or something related to tech or science. So it's like confusion in my head. So can you give any guidance or any suggestion for me, like as a confused soul?
I think the best thing to do is to enjoy what you're doing at the moment. Really immerse yourself in it. You'll figure out which ones appeal to you. The problem then comes when lots of different things appeal to you and you know you can be good. Which one will you choose after that? Then actually there are no wrong choices. When we start our education, we think that our career is going down a path which is the most common path that people have taken. In medicine, everybody is always going to be a clinical doctor. If you know anything about you might think, okay, I want to be a surgeon, or I want to be a cardiologist. The idea of somebody doing medicine and then doing health economics or working on stem cells or doing the kind of community-based research that I'm doing, that actually doesn't happen at the point of entry into medicine. For me, I finished my MBBS and I thought I was going to be an ophthalmologist or a psychiatrist. And look where I wound up. So your paths can go in many different directions. As long as you keep learning and try to enjoy what you're doing, you'll be fine.
Thank you, Doctor. Maybe I would like to also hear from Kavita about this, because a lot of students have this, that, I have taken this subject in my undergraduate because everyone was taking this subject, or there was like, a family pressure. And then we are confused what's next. So if you can add your bit to this question, I would be really happy.
Yeah, thanks, Anushila. And I think this question is there with everyone, because there are a lot of choices, and always you will have that, should I do this? Should I do this? And that will always be a question in the mind, because, and I think that's a very, very healthy thing as well. So if you really look at me, as I completed my engineering, I wanted to become a pilot. Okay, and way back in 95, 96, that was the first time when they were taking women for short service commission to be a pilot. I went there, and went through the first 2 days of this. Third day, there was a simulation of the cockpit. And I never had seen a cockpit in my life, because I had not traveled any time through air at that time, and never ever seen a cockpit, and I felt very miserable. And I came back, and that was a big setup. I was very, very upset. That was my dream. I wanted to become a pilot. I could not have that. So that was, like how you all today have a dream of, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? I think that was also one of my dream, to become a pilot. Another of my dream was I wanted to become an IPS officer, like Kiran Bedi. She was also one of my great, dream mentor whom, and I wanted to become that. And somehow I ended up, working for a company. So these things happen. And I think sometimes it is not by choice, and sometimes it is completely by choice. Okay, but if there are various choices and you want to pursue your passion, you should certainly go ahead and give it a try. That is what I would suggest.
Thank you. Thank you. Shravani, would you like to unmute and ask the question yourself?
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Actually, my question is to Kang, ma'am. What inspired you to pursue career in the medical field and not going pure as a doctor?
I think, in medicine, it's always about asking questions and figuring things out. In your practice of clinical medicine, you get a patient, you have to figure out what's wrong with them. And you do that by putting different sources of information together. The history, the examination, the lab tests, etc. Now, the problem with
Just a
clinical
moment, we'll be
medicine
muting the
is,
attendees. 1 second, sorry. Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
so with clinical medicine, mostly the answers have been figured out by somebody else. So what I wanted to try and do was to say, okay, there are still so many unanswered questions in medicine. Why don't I try to answer some of them so that the kind of work that we do is relevant for our populations? Actually, if you look at medical textbooks today, the information in those textbooks comes from people largely from the West. There isn't an advance in the practice of medicine that has come from our part of the world. The only relevant example I can think of is the Nobel Prize 222 for Artemisinin, where she took Chinese traditional medicine, explored it in great detail, and found a treatment for malaria. That treatment for malaria is now in the textbooks and got her the Nobel Prize. But that is the one big advance that came from a middle income country. From low income countries, there's nothing in the textbooks. So with the kind of work that we are trying to do, we are trying to inform the practice of medicine in India and elsewhere.
Thank you, ma'am. That really inspired me.
Good. And yeah, please, hopefully these some from the Kalpana fellows will have their work in textbooks very soon. That is the aim, right? That's the dream. Okay, so next.
I think Tejaswini has her hand raised.
Yes, and then we'll again go to Gauri because Gauri is one of our very enthusiastic students. So we'll again go to her. She has her hands raised for a long time now. Sorry for that.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. First of all, I would like to say that both the speakers were extremely inspiring and eloquent in in sharing the stories of strength and their career. I have a question for both of you. I'll start with Dr. Gagandeep. So, I'm interested in pursuing a research career. So sometimes we have this problem that we might get multiple questions. Like we might be interested to solve multiple questions. So how do we choose between them if we're equally interested in all of them? Supposing I have 3 questions to of interest. How do we choose between them?
Happens all the time. So what I try to do is figure out what problem can I solve now with the resources that I have. Some of us can have these really big questions that cannot be answered with what we know today or what we have today. So then thinking about what's within my realm of possibility and, if it is, how much does this matter? If it is something that matters and something that I can address today with the resources I have, I will go ahead and do it. But I'll keep the other questions in the back of my mind, and those will form the basis of research proposals so that I will be able to answer those questions in the future.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. So my next question is for Kavita Kaushik, ma'am. Ma'am, like you've said, you've been a mentor for quite a few people. What are some similarities and some differences that you find among your mentees that we can maybe learn from, if you won't mind sharing?
So I think quite a few similarities because being a woman myself, as I've gone through various, different kind of steps in my life, from being a daughter, then becoming a wife, and then mother. So I think time to time there have been various different questions in front of me of how to balance between my life in the corporate and my life at home. Okay, and these are the kind of things which I find very common amongst all our females or the mentees whom I really work with. And I think that really first of all helps me to learn from them if they have done something more better than what I have had. And another thing is how I can help them in taking a I'll not help them in taking a decision they have to take it themselves. All I can do is guide them. Okay, so I think these are the kind of similarities which I see all the time.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Gauri, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, thank you again. So I had my question for both the speakers. Like you both are leading teams. Like, what are your day-to-day tasks like about working with the team?
So maybe Kavita, you go first.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so I think when we are looking at and working in teams, the most important piece as a task of what I have today is one thing is technical, but as you grow in your leadership journey, it's more of general management which comes to you. So what do you work with people is you work with people to motivate them, to empower them to do your best. I think that's the most important part of your daily curriculum. So that's one piece which is there all the time. And then if there are any problems, you solve problems. Okay. But yes, as you grow as a leader and you grow the most important piece is to be there for your team, help your team, help them to grow. So I think that's the most important part of my daily curriculum today as well.
So I think my answer is exactly Kavita's answer, so I won't repeat that. The only thing that I will add is that as a team, we are constantly scoping new areas to work on because, in our field, things change all the time. So staying on top of that is a collective responsibility. So we do a lot of reading and discussion in addition to everything Kavita said.
Thank you so much.
Great questions, Gauri. Thank you. Tejaswini, do you have another question, or was it the hand raised from previous question?
Oh, I think I forgot to load. Yeah, I'm done.
That's okay. That's okay. I just wanted to make sure.
So the questions, girls, very quickly. You won't get these speakers again all the time. Maybe you're in a rare place. So quickly ask questions.
Dipti has her hand raised. Please go ahead, Dipti.
Good evening. My question is to Kang, ma'am. The thing is that, like you told, you had a lot of things running in your family, like there were like illness running in the family. Right, and it was like during a very active part of your professional journey. So the thing what happens is that when I kind of relate it with me, sometimes when things hit close to family, emotions dominate and it affects work in a very impactful manner. So like since all of this was running in a very active part of your professional life, how did you manage your emotions and your work at the same time?
Well, venting is a very good approach to letting go of things that bother you. So what I tend to do is call on my friends. I have 8 friends from medical college, and I know which one to call for which problem. Who's going to listen to me? Who's going to give me advice? We meet up every couple of years as a group, and we meet as often as we can manage it. And I think we've been support systems for each other. When you have young children, when you have the kind of issues that I described, there is nothing that is more valuable than the support of friends. Even if I could park my children in somebody else's house for a couple of hours in the evening and go do what I needed to do. And that just gave me, okay, this is one part of my life I don't need to worry about right now. So wherever you can figure out a strategy that lowers the load on you, that's what you need to be thinking about. And family and friends are the resources that are most valuable to all of us.
Thank you, ma'am. That helped a lot.
Just one quick question, if I can button. I'm so sorry.
Sure.
It's because this is something that we also try to talk to our girls, because a big challenge in women in STEM is the finding the right partners. Somewhere you've read it and seen it. So if both of you could comment on the support on how important is marriage as a choice, the right partner, and how does it really, how big is it for having a career in STEM?
So maybe I'll go first with this one. So my husband is a neurosurgeon. So I can tell you he was no support to me in my career at all. Okay. The one thing that he did was get out of the way. So he said, whatever you want to do, you go ahead and do it. So I did that. So, that in itself, it not having a barrier to doing the things you want to do is really important.
Thank you. Kavita?
I'll add to what Gagandeep was saying. Myself, my husband are all from completely different field. So I am an electrical engineer, whereas he's a dairy technologist. Okay, so we are both in completely different field. So having fights over a certain kind of a common subject is very rare. Okay, so that's one part of it. But at the same time, we respect each other's field, which is there, and support each other. So I think that's also very important, that we as whether any field, whatever we have, when we make a choice, and it's by choice, whether you want to get married, you don't want to get married, you want to have kids, okay, or you don't want to have kids, it has to be our choice and it has to be our decision. But at the time when you are making a decision to get married, to get, or to have children, you need to understand that you are having a family with you at that time. Okay, your husband, your in-laws, these are the family, and obviously your parents and your parents' side, these family are there. You need to have a discussion with them. Okay, so don't ever think that as a woman, I have a right to take my decisions, very much there. Okay, but as a woman, we also need support of everyone around us if we want to be successful in life. It's very, very difficult, to lead a life where you are married, you are having kids, but at the same time, you are having a great support to be rising in your leadership journey all by alone. It never happens. Okay, you need to have, as we say, you need to have a shoulder to cry on, you need to have your friends by your side, you need to have a family by your side. Both of them are very, very important in life. Okay, so both corporate life as well as your life, family life, are very, very important. They might become intertwined from time to time, and we need to take a right decision. What is important at that time? Somewhere you may step back when your family is important. Somewhere you may ask your family to support you when your corporate life is very important. So it goes both the ways.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is great. This is great.
Manjusha, would you like to ask another question?
Also, Aparna had her hands raised. I'm not sure.
Oh, it's not showing up on my side.
Aparna, do you have a question to ask, or should we go to Manjusha? Are you there, Aparna?
Yeah. I will just ask my question. My question is for Gagandeep, ma'am. Ma'am, as you started your initial career in teaching, as you said, so and then right now you are in community service. So, what can you share some difficulties which you have faced while you started this community service? Any difficulties which you have faced?
Building trust takes time. And when you need to work with communities, building that trust is absolutely essential. So we do research in communities. So effectively what we are doing is treating the community as a guinea pig so that we can learn something. But I've been working in the same community now for more than 20 years. We have families that have grown up with us. We have children who were born as part of our studies who are now having children themselves. And what the community does is, I frequently, when I go walking around, when I'm talking to women, they'll tell me, my first child was in this study, and now I have another child. Do you have another study that this child can be in? So they are volunteering to participate in the research because we actually invest a lot of time and effort. We have a community advisory board. We bring people together before we start a study and we tell them, this is what we are planning to do. This is the question that we are addressing. This is how we think we should address it. What inputs do you have? What would you like to see happening? And if the community advisory board is very negative about the studies, then we wouldn't do it. But so far, that has not happened. we become intertwined in the lives of our communities. So, for example, one of the things, most of the people we work with are BD workers. So for them, it was a challenge. We used to say, we'll pay for your treatment, you come to the hospital. And they said, well, we are not coming, because if you're doing BD work and you have to come to the hospital, that means a whole day's wages are lost, because it takes a long time to be seen by the doctor, get your medicines, go back home. So we started a clinic in the area, which has become very, very popular. We see children, but we see up to 200 children every day in the clinic. So responding to their needs shows them that they can trust us. Whenever our kids have a problem, we had a child who had burns and needed a dressing every day. My field staff would actually put the child on the back of their TVS, bring them to the hospital, get the dressing done, take them back home. And the families trusted us to do that. So I think building trust is the most important part. It's not easy. It takes a long time, and you have to show that you mean well for the community. And I think we seem to think that people who live in different strata of society won't be able to understand science. That is absolutely not true. It is in how you explain the science. They are perfectly capable of completely understanding everything that we are doing. They can have misconceptions sometimes, but it's our job to help clear them.
Thank you. Maybe Kavita can also comment on this, because she has also been working on the Udgam project and touching lives of various women in the rural areas. So what were the challenges, and what do you think?
Yeah, I think the first challenge, Anushila, was how are people going to listen to us? Menstrual hygiene is such a taboo. Talking about menstruation, it itself is very, very difficult, and not everyone wants to talk, even in the cities. So leave alone the villages, because we started our work from the villages. Okay, where near Fulton we have certain villages, and we wanted to start work from there because that's where the need is. And most of the villages are led by headmen, not head women. Okay, and first of all, to go and break the ice with them and talk about menstruation itself was a big challenge. Okay, but slowly, as we spoke to them and make them understand in very, very simple language in terms of why it is important, I think people really started, seeing the merit in terms of we wanted to go and speak to their women. Okay, so that's where the thing. But the first thing is we had to first talk with the men about it and then go and talk to the women. So I think that's the piece. But now when I see last 5 years, whatever we have been doing, most of the places now men are taking the lead in talking. So things are changing. I'm not saying it has completely changed, but yes, things are changing for the better.
Okay. Yeah, we also like, even for women in science and STEM, we always talking about having men allies, right? So that is very important. So thank you. I think we'll take one last question. I know we have 1 minute left, but since Manjusha has her hand raised, so we'll take one last question before we close the session. Manjusha, would you like to go ahead, please?
Yes. So my question is again for Mrs. Kang, ma'am. Like, it's regarding to career guidance. I have to do PhD. So should I do in India, or should I go for abroad studies? Like, what is the difference? I hear a lot about abroad studies best for like PhD and research things. So should I stay in India, or should I apply for abroad colleges? And
I think the most important thing to remember is a PhD is only one more stepping stone in your educational journey. So the topic that you do during your PhD is unlikely to decide what you will work on for the rest of your life. So it is the learning environment during your PhD that really matters. And for that, I think who is your PhD guide and which is the institution you do your PhD in really matters. So for example, I have lots of people. I come from a medicine background, but I now interact with the Indian biology community. And all of the leaders that we have in Indian biology today seem to have trained in Bangalore. So there are little, this networking that you have. In every grouping, you'll find somebody who trained in Bangalore who will tell you about who else was there during that time and what they learned there. So whether it is India or abroad, I think look for a good mentor and look for an institution that will help you to grow. It is not impossible to make a career in India with a PhD from India. There are plenty of examples of that happening.
And also,
exposure to the West, exposure to the West is also good because the one thing that I found when I went to the UK for my MRC path was I was really quite worried that I wouldn't measure up, that people who had had all their training in the UK would be much better than me. And I found when I was doing the MRC path is that actually in India, the level of competition that we have among our young people makes our young people among the best in the world in any case. We've come through a very difficult educational journey, so we are good. Why do you think we have so many success stories around the world? It's because from an early stage, we have learned that doing well is really important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for this question. Beautiful. And one more question, like what are the qualities or skills do you look for like PhD student when a PhD student approach to you as a mentor?
Enthusiasm and a clear thought process. So I don't really care whether you were first in class or 15th in class, right? If I ask you questions during a PhD interview and you demonstrate logic in how you answer your questions and you're enthusiastic about continuing to learn, I think you have a great grounding for a PhD.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
And I think this is true for all fields. So thank you all for the questions and a fantastic. I think we'll close the session. Anu?
Yes, Vijay. Thank you everyone, all the fellows, for the amazing questions, and thanks to both of our speakers for sharing their journey in STEM and also answering each of the questions patiently and giving candid views and answers too. So it was very inspiring to learn about your journey, and thank you for being with us and giving your entire Saturday evening to us. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say, and we can close the session.
And last 2 words, and we are very, very happy to have both of you. Vigyan Chala, like we said, will be 4 years in a couple of days. So thank you so much. We really wanted the best because I don't know if you know, but the Vigyan Chala team knows about both Kavita and Gagandeep. We have heard about you, we read you. A lot of our colleagues we know personally, and we always was, one of our dreams to get the two of you over here. So thank you so much. We are also fan people of yours, even though we are also mentors. We are also fan people of yours. So thank you so much again.
Thank you, Vijay.
Saujanya has her hand raised.
Okay, so Saujanya is again just a quick introduction. Saujanya is from Cummins. She was the first contact in Cummins.
And I just wanted to do clap
emoji. My bad, I'm bad with this. So it was not even.
Okay.
But I'm so happy to have been here. Thank you so much. And just congratulations to this fabulous team. What a great job you guys are doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I think
Yes.
really I want to thank each one of you for being here today and giving us the the opportunity to be able to talk to you all. And it was absolutely a great use of my time for the last 1.5 hours. Really love to be amongst each one of you. And anytime you require any support, please do lean on to us.
Surely. Kavita ji, expect a cohort in Pune. We'll get them to the Cummins office.
Anytime. Anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
both of
Thank
you.
you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gagandeep ma'am. Thank you, Kavita. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anu. This was amazing. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, ma'am.